Whatever concept you have about yourself, how the world's supposed to work, what you deserve or not deserve, that is going to be the lens of how you see your entire life. And therefore, since you're being that person, you're going to keep getting a reflection of that, because we don't get what we want, but we always get a reflection of who we're being. So how exactly do you change your self-concept? What actually makes up your self-concept? And ultimately, how can you tap into this power? I'm going to be answering all of these questions in this video, giving you a visual explanation of where it comes from, how you can start understanding what concept you're in, so you can start shifting the concept you hold of yourself to align with your wish fulfilled, to see how you can start tapping into your power now. So let's get started. So if you have a concept of yourself that you're not attractive, or that you're not good enough, or that everybody at the end of it, they abandon you, or that you're really not lovable, you will block out everything other than what this is. So this square, basically, piece of plastic represents the concept you hold. Basically, it's the container of all the different assumptions from the law of assumption. Another thing you could say is this is your belief system. So it's powerful to understand that the things that you're wanting to exist right now, they actually might be on the outer skirts of your life. But what's happening is you're filtering through your self-concept. So when you look out into the world, you only see this. Situations that show you you're not good enough, situations that show you you're not attractive. You keep experiencing this over and over because you're looking through this filter of the concept you hold to be true, based on the assumptions. So the first thing you got to understand before you can move on to actually changing and shifting that concept and start to erase all of this bullshit, basically, before you can do this, you've got to understand where this concept of you has come from. So let's break it down. The most unconscious part of this comes from your childhood. So whatever your caregivers and how they treated you, whatever that environment was, it heavily influenced. And there could be things that you're not even aware of. And when you become aware of something, that is the first and most crucial step before you can make a change. So if you grew up in an environment, maybe your caretakers were really busy. Maybe they showed you love, but then they'd leave. So you have this potential scarcity or neediness because you didn't have the connection you were really looking for and needed, because that parent was really overwhelmed financially and doing the best they could. So even though they loved you, there wasn't quite enough love for you. So it's like, oh no, I better get what I can now. And the next thing is maybe they were mean, physically, verbally, mentally abusive. Maybe they just weren't emotionally there. Physically, they were there all the time, but they couldn't tap in and go deep on the level of emotions you needed. Or maybe they were really critical and harsh and they judged you. So what this will look like in terms of your self-concept growing up is, oh, they're really busy. So this is little you, and this is basically, how am I supposed to human? Who am I? Oh, my caretaker doesn't quite have enough. So that could create lack. Or maybe you see yourself as not important. That job is important. Those other people are important, but not you. And maybe they were really mean. And you think, oh, it's because I'm not enough. If I was enough, they'd be really nice to me, or they would have met my needs. Maybe they just emotionally weren't able to connect. And you could think, oh, it must be because I'm not lovable. And then the last thing is maybe they're really critical. And maybe that caused you to think that you're actually less or you're bad. You've got to understand that as a kid, you basically put this person on a pedestal because they had the power to take care of you. They had the power and the wisdom that you didn't have because you were a kid. So you were dependent on them to keep you alive. Your physical safety depended on it. So they get put on a pedestal. And when they treat you this way, whatever it is, you could have different iterations of this. One could be more prominent. But what you got to understand is little you took this, created an interpretation or meaning, and then created that view of yourself. So these, again, unless you've done a lot of work and become conscious of these are literally still ruling your life unconsciously. If you're trying to manifest a relationship and you keep finding people who are really unreliable or flaky and who basically are not able to emotionally connect with you, unless you're able to understand, oh, I keep drawing people to me that are an echo of this early on dynamic, and unless I understand that it's not because I'm not worthy, it's because that parent, that caregiver did not have the emotional capacity, then you can essentially relieve this and update your concept. But until you do that, this will continue to rule your life. And Carl Jung says, until you make conscious what is unconscious, until you're aware of something you're not aware of that happened a long time ago that you've probably suppressed and repressed because it's painful, until you're aware of it, it's going to basically drive the bus, and you'll be like, oh, it's fate. That's always happened to me. That's just who I am. That's what I attract. That's what I deserve. So as you can start to see, oh, okay, if the caretaker was too busy, that had nothing to do with your worth. Oh, they were really mean to me. That had to do with this caregiver. But what you've got to first understand, though, is, oh, that's where that early on concept of myself has come from. So maybe it's created something like this for you. And I'm going to show you two different concepts now and how you can start applying this to life circumstances now and start to understand how powerful and how you can shift your self-concept so you can start getting a reflection of your true worth. This is an example of two different self-concepts. This first concept is basically going to be the adult version of that previous self-concept that I was showing with the adult. Because that parent or caregiver wasn't emotionally there, they physically or emotionally left, you could have this fear that, oh, everyone's going to leave me. I have this deep fear of abandonment. Maybe it's about, oh, because that caregiver never was able to meet my needs, I must not be enough. Maybe they were really mean to me. And then also, too, I'm not worthy. Because if I was worthy, that person, those caregivers, your family dynamic would have been able to meet your needs. So the reflection of this self-concept could look like this. The expressions you could be seeing if you have these self-concepts or variations of them is maybe you find people who are really flaky, that they're basically recreating that emotional inconsistency from your childhood because the concept you've constructed is, oh, I'm not good enough. I have to work really, really hard. So this is basically the underlying self-concept. And this is how it's going to be expressed in your life. Maybe there is a certain power dynamic. Maybe it's in relationships. There's always this kind of power struggle, or the person dominates you. Or maybe it's in your work. Maybe you have this boss who's really condescending, right? And that could make you feel like you're not enough, like you're not smart enough. And maybe that goes back to that early on adoption of that caregiver's treatment of you. That, oh, I'm not good enough. I am less than this person. Then you're going to basically attract in your outside world somebody who's going to treat you that way, not because it's true, but because energetically that's where you are. That concept you have of yourself, the assumptions you hold to be true, you're going to filter everything out but the people who are going to try to dominate you. Maybe you just have lack everywhere, lack of emotional fulfillment, lack of actual financial resources, seeing through that lens of not being able to get what you needed as a kid. So in that self-concept, the beliefs, the filters, you're going to find only things that basically make you feel lack. And then also, too, maybe you just find a lot of mean people. This could be all sorts of different dynamics. Compared with this second concept, which is somebody who has assumptions where they're whole and complete, where they're deserving, where they are actually lovable. And that would express like this. Since you're more in tune with your needs, because you know that early on formation of your concept had nothing to do with you, and you let that old concept go, you'll be able to start to meet your needs and find people as a reflection of that, your own place of importance on yourself, people who will meet your needs. You'll also find people who will value you because you've updated your self-concepts according to your own opinions. The lens you'll look through is that of abundance. And you'll also find people who are emotionally consistent and show up for you because you know you're whole and complete. You're not looking for anything outside of you. You're whole and complete as you are, and therefore your outside world is going to reflect that. So this is the biggest mistake I see when people are trying to change their self-concept. They keep having these assumptions that, oh, okay, I met this person and they stopped texting me. Oh no, I'm assuming that they're going to abandon me. They're rejecting me. Now you're thinking of this up here, that your needs getting met, you feeling valued, and consistency, right? That someone's going to be consistent with you. But the self-concept you have right now, unless you change his assumptions, is going to get this. The tension comes from wanting this over here, but getting a reflection here, and you think, oh my God, I'm really not worth it. I keep finding the situations over and over and over. It must be because I'm not good enough, because everyone abandons me. No, it's because the concept you hold to be true still is in this box. The only way you can start to experience these things is if you update the concept you have of yourself. You will not be able to feel like everyone's going to abandon you, not feel enough, or not feel worthy and also experience this. This is where I really struggled because I wanted proof. I wanted somebody to show up at my door and say, oh my gosh, you're wonderful. And that be the reason that I changed. Because I wanted to be here, think and feel this way and believe and assume this is who I was. But I wanted someone to treat me this way. So then magically my self-concept would be updated to these. I think you can start to see that the only way you can live in your wish fulfilled is to let go of one self-concept. And this is uncomfortable, it can be scary, and then you're going to start to believe these things to be true, and then they're going to sprout up in your outside world and start reflecting that back to you. You might be asking, well, how do I do this? How in the world can I let go of something before I have proof? It's by re-reasoning from that first example. That caregiver, whatever it is that you experience as a kid that has created this self-concept, it's somebody else's opinion of you. It's somebody else's trauma or wounds. Yes, you can have every right to feel upset or angry, and it doesn't define your worth, what you deserve, or what you can experience in life unless you make it personal. Now, again, you deserve better. You deserve to have your needs met. But if you can understand, oh, my caretaker was really busy. Wow, they were really overwhelmed. I needed more. Maybe I'm upset. Maybe I'm hurt by that. And I can see that my worthiness was always intact. That person did not have the skills, did not have the capacity for what I needed. It did not have to do with my lack of worth. The other thing too is we adopt how we're treated to be ourselves and really adopt this self-concept, these limiting beliefs, because that's how we stay safe. And when we start to realize the only way to stay safe now is to let go of this self-concept, whatever it is for you, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, not feeling lovable, fearing everyone's going to abandon you, you have to change the dynamics of yourself by letting go of however anyone treated you that is an outside of this, because this is your true self-worth. This is your true self-concept. Anything standing in the way of it right now is a misunderstanding and a distortion of somebody else's opinion. So in order to be here, you're actually relating through someone else to yourself. Let that go. Start relating to yourself. You are not born with low worth. You were not born feeling not enough. You learned it. That means you can unlearn it and start stepping into and becoming aware of what is it? How do I really feel about myself? What is it that I think is really talented? Realize anyone you admire, whatever you see in somebody else, that positive light, it is also in you. The more and more you start to tap into that and start to love those parts of you, loving them outside of yourself, they're also inside of yourself. So tap into that. Let go of those limitations, those old experiences, and give it a new meaning with your adult mind. The more you do this, the more radically your life can change, because you're going to imagine yourself in a higher concept and then be able to start living in that, start having those feelings inside of you and elevate your vibration that's going to align with the true self-concept of you. Understanding how powerful changing your self-concept is will absolutely change your entire life. This next video right here is going to teach you how you can feel worthy and deserving now before you see any changes outside of you, so you can shift that self-concept, step into that desired reality you want. I love y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't done so already, join this community. I'll see you on the next one.